সোসাইটি ফর দ্য ভিজুয়ালি হ্যান্ডিক্যাপ থেকে আমি অনুরাধা দত্ত। compulsory ইংলিশ 2015, ইউনিভার্সিটি অফ নর্থ বেঙ্গল অ্যান্ড গৌড়বঙ্গ, by a group of lecturers, edited by Ghosh and Das, Chopin Publications, publisher Gautam Das, 2155 ঘোষ লেন, কলকাতা 9, চঞ্চল কলেজ রোড, মালদা, published September 2014. Content: name, prose, page number. M.K. Gandhi, How a Client Was Saved, page 5 to 14. Ernest Hemingway, Old Man at the Bridge, page 15 to 22. Jack Denton Scott, Prankster of the Sea, page 23 to 30. Poetry: Walt Whitman, Oh Captain, My Captain, page 31 to 38. Thomas Hardy, Afterwards, page 39 to 47. W.H. Auden, The Unknown Citizen, page 48 to 55. Kamala Das, Summer in Calcutta, page 56 to 60. Drama: Lady Gregory, The Rising of the Moon, page 61 to 82. Unseen, report writing 8 marks, 83 to 94. Letter writing 5 marks, 95 to 114. Precis writing 7 marks, 115 to 128. Prose: How a Client Was Saved, M.K. Gandhi, page 5. Summary: When M.K. Gandhi was practicing law in South Africa, Rustamji, a Parsi living in South Africa, was Gandhiji's client and co-worker. Gandhiji is now going to acquaint him with the reader. Rustamji had deep confidence in Gandhiji. He sought Gandhiji's advice in all family affairs. Even he did not hesitate to accept Gandhiji's quack treatment when he fell ill. Rustamji once fell in trouble. He had an export and import business. He often imported goods from Bombay and Calcutta by smuggling, but he held it back from Gandhiji. His involvement in smuggling had not been disclosed, as he had friendly relation with customs officials. They trusted him so deeply that they did not check his imported goods. But one day his smuggling was exposed. Rustamji rushed to Gandhiji with fearful eyes and admitted to him that he was involved in smuggling. He requested Gandhiji to save him from dishonor. He further told him that Gandhiji could alone save his fame and reputation from being maligned. Rustamji was repentant for the guilt or crime he had committed. Gandhiji assured him that he would try his best to save him, but first of all he would have to confess his guilt. Everything depended on God. Inquiry revealed that Rustamji had been involved in smuggling for a long time. Page 6. But the amount in question involved a trifling sum. Rustamji's counsel said that a neutral jury could acquit him of the charge. It was not a hopeless case. Rustamji wanted to be counselled or guided by Gandhiji instead of his old lawyer. Gandhiji wanted to meet both the customs officials and Attorney General, as both of them had the power to prosecute Rustamji. but Gandhiji also told Rustamji to be prepared to go to jail, as that would be a good penance for him. In Gandhiji's view, imprisonment was not the true punishment for the crime he had committed. Rustamji promised not to be involved in smuggling in future. Rustamji told Gandhiji that his name and fame was at stake, but finally he surrendered himself to Gandhiji. Gandhiji tried his best to persuade the customs officials not to bring the case to court. He also wrote to the Attorney General and then personally met him so that Rustamji was not prosecuted in the court. The Attorney General was at last convinced, and he admired Gandhiji for his free and frank arguments. At last the case of Rustamji was settled by compromise. Rustamji promised not to commit crime in future. He had to pay double the amount he had earned by smuggling as penalty. He was acquitted of the charge. Rustamji set the record in black and white and hung up on the wall of his office all about the case as a reminder to intending offenders. Lastly, Gandhiji saved his client. সারাংশ, যখন গান্ধীজি দক্ষিণ আফ্রিকায় আইন ব্যবসা করতেন তখন রুস্তমজি দক্ষিণ আফ্রিকায় থাকতেন। তিনি ছিলেন পার্সি। এছাড়া তিনি ছিলেন গান্ধীজির একজন মক্কেল ও সহকর্মী। রুস্তমজি সব বিষয়েই গান্ধীজির পরামর্শ অনুযায়ী চলতেন। এমনকি রুস্তমজি তাঁর ঘরোয়া ব্যাপারেও গান্ধীজির পরামর্শ নিতেন। এমনকি অসুস্থ থাকাকালীনও তিনি গান্ধীজির সাহায্য চাইতেন। যদিও গান্ধীজির দৈনন্দিন জীবনধারার সঙ্গে রুস্তমজির জীবনধারার রুস্তমজির দৈনন্দিন জীবনধারার অনেক পার্থক্য ছিল। পৃষ্ঠা ৭। তথাপি তার প্রতি রুস্তমজির এত অগাধ বিশ্বাস ছিল যে তিনি তার হাতুড়ে চিকিৎসা গ্রহণ করতেও ইতস্তত বোধ করতেন না। রুস্তমজির আমদানি রপ্তানির ব্যবসা ছিল। তিনি কলকাতা ও বোম্বাই থেকে মালপত্র আনতেন। তিনি এক সময় বিপদে পড়লেন। তার এই ব্যবসা সম্বন্ধে সবকিছু তিনি গান্ধীজির কাছে গোপন রেখেছিলেন, কারণ এর সাহায্যে তিনি প্রায় শুল্ক ফাঁকি দিয়ে বিভিন্ন দেশের ভেতরে যা বা বাইরে জিনিস পাঠাতেন। যেহেতু শুল্ক বিভাগের কর্তাদের সঙ্গে তার সুসম্পর্ক ছিল, সেই কারণে কেউই তাকে সন্দেহ করত না। কর ধার্য করার ক্ষেত্রে বিশ্বাস করে তারা তার মূল্য ও মালের তালিকাটি গ্রহণ করত। কিন্তু একদিন তার এই গোপন ব্যবসার কথা প্রকাশ পেল। তিনি গান্ধীজির কাছে অশ্রুপাত করলেন, কারণ তিনি তার কৃত কর্মের জন্য অনুতপ্ত হয়েছিলেন। গান্ধীজি তাকে এ ব্যাপারে সাহায্য করবেন বলে আশ্বাস দিলেন, কারণ তার স্বীকারোক্তি গান্ধীজিকে এ ব্যাপারে অনেকটা সাহায্য করবে। গান্ধীজি তাকে জানালেন যে রক্ষা করার ব্যাপারটা পুরোপুরি ঈশ্বরের উপর নির্ভর করছে, তবে তাকে প্রথমে দোষ স্বীকার করতে হবে এবং তার উপদেশ অক্ষরে অক্ষরে মানতে হবে। রুস্তমজি তার আদেশ মেনে চলবেন বলে কথা দিলেন। পরে তদন্তে জানা গেল যে তিনি এই ব্যবসায় দীর্ঘদিন ধরে লিপ্ত আছেন, কিন্তু যে ব্যাপারে ধরা পড়েছেন সেটি অত্যন্ত সামান্য টাকার ব্যাপার। রুস্তমজির সঙ্গের উকিল জানালেন যে এই মামলাটি জটিল হলেও নিরাশ হওয়ার কোনো কারণ নেই। রুস্তমজির দোকানে গিয়ে গান্ধীজি তাকে অবগত করলেন যে মামলাটি শেষ পর্যন্ত আদালত পর্যন্ত গড়াবে না, কারণ তার অভিযুক্ত করা বা মুক্তি দেওয়া শুল্ক বিভাগের এখতিয়ারভুক্ত এবং তিনি এ ব্যাপারে অ্যাটর্নি জেনারেলের মত অনুসারে চলবেন। গান্ধীজি উভয়ের সঙ্গে দেখা করলেন। অ্যাটর্নি জেনারেল গান্ধীজিকে পরিষ্কার ভাষায় জানিয়ে দিলেন যে যদি রুস্তমজি ধার্য জরিমানা না দেন তাহলে তাকে কারাবাস করতে হবে। এ ধরনের অপরাধের জন্য তাকে কারাবাসের মধ্য দিয়েই প্রায়শ্চিত্ত করা উচিত। গান্ধীজি রুস্তমজিকে ধার্য জরিমানা শুল্ক বিভাগকে দিয়ে দিতে পরামর্শ দিলেন, কারণ কারাবাসের চেয়ে এ ধরনের অপরাধ করা বেশি লজ্জাজনক এবং এ ধরনের লজ্জাকর কাজটা তাঁর দ্বারা হয়েছে। সত্যিকারের প্রায়শ্চিত্ত হল ভবিষ্যতে আর কখনো চোরা কারবার না করা। রুস্তমজি এসব কিছুই ভালোভাবে গ্রহণ করলেন। তিনি একজন সাহসী মানুষ, কিন্তু সেই মুহূর্তে তিনি তার সাহস হারিয়ে ফেলেন, কারণ তার নাম ও খ্যাতি বিপদাপন্ন হয়ে উঠেছিল। তিনি অত্যন্ত অনুতপ্ত হলেন এবং প্রতিজ্ঞা করলেন ভবিষ্যৎ আসি। Question. Full marks 5. 1. What did Rustamji consider to be the greatest cause for shame to him? Answer. Rustamji had his name and fame as a bulk importer. To go to jail for smuggling would malign his image, prestige. After that, he considered his going to jail for smuggling the greatest cause for shame to him. Question 2. Which words that Rustamji used to describe his offence show us that he did not consider it to be a moral offence? Answer. This statement by Rustamji, "I ought not to bother you with such tricks of the trade," clearly proves that Rustamji did not consider smuggling to be a moral offence. Lastly, he considered it a legal offence. Question 3. Who, according to Gandhiji, was the one who would finally decide whether Rustamji was to be saved or not? Answer. Rustamji's involvement in smuggling was discovered by the customs officials. He rushed to Gandhiji to save him from serving imprisonment. Gandhiji assured him all possible efforts to save him, but told him also that God could alone save him from it. Question 4. Why was Rustamji's offence not detected earlier? Or why had Rustamji's smuggling offences not been discovered earlier? Answer. Rustamji was known as a bulk importer of goods. He was very friendly with the customs officials. Though he often resorted to smuggling, he was not suspected. They charged customs duty on the invoices produced then by him because they trusted him. So his involvement in smuggling had not been detected for a long time. Question 5. How was the case against Parsi Rustamji settled? Or Gandhiji and the other council differed in the way in which they thought the case ought to be handled? The case ought to be handled. How did A. Gandhiji and B. the other council hope to settle the case? Answer. Gandhiji wanted that Rustamji should confess his guilt to the customs authorities and pay the penalty through compromise. But the old council of Rustamji wanted to settle the case through legal steps in the court. In this view, a natal jury could only acquit an Indian of any offence. Thus Gandhiji and Rustamji's old council differed with each other in connection with the settlement of the case. Question 6. What was the penance told by Gandhiji? Or Gandhiji spoke to two penances. A. What were they? B. Which of them did Rustamji not have to do? Answer. Gandhiji advised Rustamji to pay the full penalty as to be fixed by the customs officials. He also told him that if the customs officials did not agree to accept the penalty and acquit him, thus he would have to go to jail as the penance for the crime he had already committed. In Gandhiji's view, to promise not to commit such an offence in future is the real penance. B. Rustamji was not prepared to serve imprisonment, as serving imprisonment would be an extremely disgraceful and humiliating matter for him, for he had reputation as an export-import businessman. So he was ready to pay the penalty as to be fixed by the customs officials, and he also promised not to repeat this crime. 7. Why did Gandhiji have to go to Attorney General as well as to the customs officials? Customs officers. Answer. Gandhiji was in favor of settling Rustamji's case through compromise. So he sought to meet the customs officials in order to reveal all the facts related to Rustamji's offences. He could convince them to acquit Rustamji through the payment of penalty, as Rustamji was extremely repentant for the crime. He also sought to meet the Attorney General, who would guide the customs officials in settling the case through compromise. Question 8. Which two qualities of Gandhiji helped him to persuade the Attorney General not to drag Rustamji into court? Answer. Persistence and frankness are the outstanding qualities which helped Gandhiji to persuade the Attorney General not to drag Rustamji into court. Gandhiji made the Attorney General and frankly admitted that the crime Rustamji had committed should land him in prison, but to be repentant for the crime and resolved never to commit it in future are the real penance. He succeeded in persuading the customs officials in acquitting Rustamji, as he was extremely repentant and was ready to pay the penalty. Question 9. What did Gandhiji say about shame and penance in respect of Rustamji's guilt? Or what did Gandhiji consider to be a greater cause for shame? Answer. Gandhiji justified Rustamji's punishment through serving imprisonment because he had committed offence. Punishment should follow crime. According to him, to serve imprisonment as punishment is a less shameful matter than the offence Rustam had committed. So, to commit a crime is the greater cause for shame. Question 10. What did Rustamji 1. lose, 2. partly save by the settlement of the case? Answer. Rustamji was not prosecuted in the court. He was acquitted of the offence he had committed. Gandhiji's proposal for settling the case through compromise was accepted by both the customs authorities and the Attorney General. He had to pay an amount as fixed by the authorities as penalty. This was his material loss too, but his prestige and honour were saved. His social position remained under-ingrated and his image remained unmaligned. He would be able to re-earn money he lost, but he had been jailed. If he had been jailed, he would have to lose the prestige, which he could not have been regained. The compromise with the customs authorities saved him partly. Question 11. Give the relationship between Gandhiji and Rustamji. Answer. When M.K. Gandhi was practicing law in South Africa, Rustamji, a Parsi living in South Africa, was Gandhiji's client and co-worker. Gandhiji is now going to acquaint him with the reader. Rustamji had deep confidence in Gandhiji he sought Gandhiji's advice in all family affairs. Even he did not hesitate to accept Gandhiji's quack treatment when he fell ill. Question 12. The good Parsi felt deeply mortified. Who was the good Parsi? What made him feel deeply mortified? Or when and why did Rustamji feel deeply mortified? Answer. Parsi Rustamji rushed to Gandhiji to seek help in order to avoid imprisonment. Since his smuggling was detected, he was to be legally punished. Gandhiji alone could save him. Gandhiji remarked that to save him or not to save him was in the hands of God. As for himself, he could only try to save him by means of confession. On hearing this reply, Rustamji felt deeply mortified. Question 13. Briefly explain the title, How a Client Was Saved. Answer. When M.K. Gandhi was practicing law in South Africa, Rustamji, a Parsi living in South Africa, was Gandhiji's client and co-worker. Gandhiji is now going to acquaint him with the reader. Rustamji had deep confidence in Gandhiji. He sought Gandhiji's advice in all family affairs. Even he did not hesitate to accept Gandhiji's quack treatment when he fell ill. Everything depended on God. Inquiry revealed that Rustamji had been involved in smuggling for a long time. Gandhiji tried his best to persuade the customs officials not to bring the case to court. He also wrote to the Attorney General and then personally met him so that Rustamji was not prosecuted in the court. The Attorney General was at last convinced and he admired Gandhiji for his free and frank arguments. At last the case of Rustamji was settled by compromise. Rustamji promised not to commit crime in future. He had to pay double the amount he had earned by smuggling as penalty. He was acquitted of the charge. Rustamji set the record in black and white and hung up on the wall of his office all about the case as a reminder to intending offenders. Lastly, Gandhiji saved his client. We find that everywhere Gandhiji saved his client. The story expressed from being to end the story expressed from beginning to end the relation between Gandhiji and client about above affairs, so the title here competent. Question 13. What lesson did the Parsi learn from his ordeal? Answer. At last the case of Rustamji was settled by compromise. Rustamji promised not to commit crime in future. He had to pay double the amount he had earned by smuggling as penalty. He was acquitted of the charge. Rustamji set the record in black and white and hung up on the wall of his office all about the case as a reminder to intending offenders. এই প্রশ্নটি এখানে শেষ হল।